The image you see before you is a figment of your imagination. Paladins do not die. However, while we're here on the classic demo, what I want to talk about is effectively 5 things related to classic WoW. One thing which I just thought very strange. 2 things are to do with what the development team have been talking about during BlizzCon. A mixture of things I approve of and things I disapprove of. And then I also want to talk about some of the things the community, the WoW Classic community, has been saying. Again, with a mixture of approval and disapproval. Right, all alive again. Let's pretend that didn't happen. Let's eat some fish. So, the first thing that I thought was just out there strange. I want to give a little bit of background to this. So, for the longest time, even with mounting pressure, Blizzard said they are not going to do vanilla WoW servers. They were, no. All right, then we'll do vanilla WoW servers, but we're going to call them classic WoW servers. Great, thanks. That was announced at BlizzCon 2017. Now, I want to point out the 3 types of WoW player that have a particular interest in classic WoW. There are players such as myself who enjoy the modern version of WoW, but also quite looking forward to classic WoW. Largely for nostalgia purposes, but also because I actually enjoyed the mode of questing in vanilla WoW. Then there's the real WoW classic players. These are the ones who want nothing to do with the modern version of WoW. They don't like it, but they do like WoW Classic, as we're calling it now. Okay? They're semi-delighted about this. But then there are the players who want the live version of WoW, the modern version of WoW. They want nothing to do with WoW Classic. Now, of course, you know, having WoW Classic out shouldn't really harm those players, so it doesn't necessarily matter. But there was an objection raised, which was, is this going to take away development time from the modern version of the game? We're going to have developers splitting their attention. To which they were quite clear, no, this isn't going to happen. It's going to have its own team, totally separate from the modern version of WoW. So that should have been fine. Imagine my surprise during then BlizzCon, went out onto stage to talk about the development process of WoW Classic, was none other than Ian Hazzikostas, game developer, or game director I should say, of World of Warcraft. Now, I have to say, I'm not going to make a big deal of this beyond just saying this, because other people haven't. I did have an inkling. When I saw him, I thought, oh my god, what if people start saying, oh, is this why BFA hasn't been up to par? Because you've been diverting your attention away. And he wasn't just there as a spokesman as well. He talked at times about how they discussed certain aspects of WoW Classic over a very long time. So it seemed quite clear, unless he was just lying, that he personally has spent some time discussing aspects of Classic WoW, how to implement certain things. That I would have thought would be quite worried, but it hasn't been, so let's move on from that. So in terms of things that they have generally been saying that I approve or disapprove of. Now, one thing I'm disappointed with, I'm not going to say outright disapprove, it's not a big deal, but I am disappointed. Now, I'll tell you why. For transmog, now obviously we shouldn't have transmog in Classic WoW, we have to look like clown vomits, that's the deal. But people asked, or a person asked at any rate, I think a lot of people were interested, however, when we get some items in Classic WoW, because of course it's all linked on the same Battle.net, does that mean that they would show up in the transmog tab on the modern version of WoW? Because there's no reason why they shouldn't. And the answer was no. And it's not a technical aspect. Let's not get myself killed again. It's purely because they said, well, you know, people worked for these items in vanilla and it's, you know, it's special and it should stay special. Now, I don't buy that at all. I'll explain why. First of all, the only thing that makes them special is you can't get them anymore. And the only reason you can't get them anymore is because they first of all took away Naxxramas. That's why the most special of the special of vanilla gear is from Naxxramas. But then there's lots of other stuff that's special as well, because they knackered the rest of vanilla in Cataclysm. That's it. People worked hard for gear in TBC. But that's not special, because people can go back and get that. So I don't buy that reasoning. In fact, I think that WoW Classic would have been an ideal scenario to allow people to go and get some of that iconic gear, and then it wouldn't have to be quite so special, because some of it, frankly, isn't special. It's just unique. You know, take some of the tier 3 gear from Naxxramas. You know, a couple of sets are really good. The Warrior set is really good, suits a Death Knight, ideally. The Druid set's really good. I've talked about this before. The Mage set's decent as well, I think. The rest of them, not so much. I'm not actually all that keen on them. But they're considered special just because you can't get them. So I think you should, but, you know, it's not a massive deal. Now, something I am going to side with Blizzard on, even though, you know, I can see the disappointment. So when it comes to looting, we had problems in vanilla where sometimes loot would go to the wrong person. Sometimes it was an accidental miss master looting. And sometimes, you know, someone disconnected and you couldn't assign it to them. But they were there, they registered, you sent a ticket in to have the item transferred. And it got sorted. Now what we can do to save the GMs all that hassle is we can loot trade. We've got our gear. It's for 2 hours we can trade it to someone who was also eligible for that loot. Now Blizzard are introducing that into WoW Classic. And I understand it. Not that I'm desperately in favour of it, but I understand it, and the reason is because WoW Classic is a concession to us, even though there's now developers saying how gung-ho happy they are about it. And maybe they're telling the truth. It just seems strange that they went from absolutely not to, yes, this is the best thing ever. Now, it could well be, of course, that some of those developers were against it and some were for it, and no one's changed their mind. It's just that the balance of opinion has shifted in favour of those who are in favour of it. But what no one wants at Blizzard, I'm sure, is to clog up the GM system or have to spend a crap load more money on massively expanding it. And let's be honest, they would have to massively expand it. A lot of the reason why GM times are relatively short now, I don't know whether you think they are or not, but I'll tell you what, compared to vanilla they are, is because a lot of the issues can now be dealt with separately. Now, I'm okay with that. I'm fine with that. There is an argument against it. So what Asmongold said, and there's a couple of aspects to what he said. First of all, he said, well, now you can have a situation where people can go in with a group of friends, as frequently happens now, and ever since loot trading, and they can, you know, one person wants an item, the other two of their friends don't want it, but they all roll on it, and, you know, then give it to their mate. Yeah, so it's like one person has 3 rolls of the die, as opposed to everyone else having 1, which is not very fair. And I am dead against that sort of behaviour. I dislike that behaviour. I don't engage in that behaviour myself. I don't take part in these. If someone says to me, oh, come along so that you can roll for me and stuff like that, I don't do that. I think it's antisocial. So I should really be thinking about that explanation, go, yeah, actually, I'm against the loot trading. However, there's a couple of issues with it. First of all, the way it's done, and this is the way the community have been about a number of issues. Instead of providing feedback and just saying, look, you know, I understand why you're doing it, but actually it would change the behaviour of players. And I am going to totally be on the side of the community here. Anything that changes the behaviour of the players, I think, is to be dissuaded. And the reason for that is there's so many lovely things about the social interaction of vanilla that you would only find in vanilla when we had the closed communities, and as well other aspects of the game. Take this game, for example. Unfortunately, I've not been able to show you because I don't think there's any players anymore. I think I'm the only person playing it now at this point in the week. But when I was playing it at the weekend, it was absolutely marvellous, and I'd forgotten that this ever happened. You know, I'd be running around, and then a mage would run past me and give me an intellect buff, and then I'd give them a wisdom buff in return. And then a priest might give me a stamina buff. You know, this sort of thing. Another paladin might give me wisdom, and I give them, you know, whatever they're missing. You have a look at them, or you've given yourself might, I'll give you wisdom. You know, it's lovely. It's a nice, lovely bit of, you know, strangers passing. It's the equivalent of saying hello, but in a very lovely way. It's actually better than that. It's the equivalent of a stranger walking past you and giving you a muffin, isn't it? That actually isn't laced with cyanide. Don't accept muffins from strangers, please. And I think that's delightful. And I think anything that changes the behaviour. And then what people were doing is we were finding this and going, oh my God, no. No, 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 no. No dungeon finder, no pre-made groups. Now, Blizzard explained that this is just here for the demo. The fact that people jump down their throats, instead of just saying, please tell me this is only for the demo, because it's a demo. Why would people think a demo is exactly the same as the live version? When is a demo ever exactly the same as the live version? It's not. You know, but the fact that people have been so accusatory is disappointing because, you know, you've got to remember there was a lot of people at Blizzard were against this, specifically because they said we can't please everyone. Whatever we do, people will give us shit. I'm pretty sure that was probably their words as well. And all you're doing is like reinforcing that viewpoint. Don't do that. So what happened was, so Asmongold said, you know, look, loot trading, you're going to have this sort of behaviour. But instead of just saying that, he said, oh, loot trading, what a stupid idea. Now, I know he's dead set against it. It's just that language. If it were me, I'm going to be honest, if I was the game developer and I'm saying, well, look, you know, they're not going to let us. It's not a game developer's decision. You know, when it comes to GMs, you're talking about money at the end of the day, moolah. And someone has said, look, you know, we're not spending that much money on it. It's going to cost a fortune. And they've said, okay, we'll put loot trading in. That's their solution. To then call those developers who put the only solution they actually could stupid is not fair. And it's not nice, more importantly. You know, we're supposed to be like on board here. We're supposed to be grateful they're actually finally doing it, for goodness sake. I certainly am. So I think that the community could be, instead of coming out with this big long list of objections and saying, you know, this is stupid, this is wrong, you're getting this all wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. Offer it as feedback. You know, say, oh, the mana regeneration doesn't seem to be, you know, quite what it was in vanilla, and this and that and this and that. Which some people have, to be fair, some people have. But other people have been saying, you're getting this wrong and you're getting this wrong. And oh my God, how stupid can you be? Why are you trying to change Classic WoW and all the rest of it? So I don't think, you know, that should be done either. I mean, another aspect to the demo was sharding. You know, sharding is in the demo. Now, some of it is going to be in WoW Classic as well. It seems to work in very much the same way it does for RP Realms, to be fair, though. So what they've said is, you know, when the game launches, there's going to be a shitload of people going in. More than there were at the launch of World of Warcraft itself, of course. And the servers have to run. So there's going to be some sharding there. But it's not going to be in the game in the way that it is in modern servers. In fact, although they didn't use the term, I'm pretty sure the take-home that I took from it was, think of it as being like an RP Realm. I think that's how it's going to work. You know, which seems okay to me. Another thing they said about expansions, of course, is that there's no plans for it. They're just going to wait and see how this goes. They're going to try it out. I'm going to be honest. If people shit on this and keep, you know, moaning and bleating, and every time we get given something wanting more, I don't think they're going to want to do any others anyway, regardless. I don't actually know how much... one of my viewers was saying recently, actually, how isn't it strange that there's so much reverence for vanilla WoW? Oh, did I not finish that quest? And yet there's, you know, way less for TBC, which is almost as old, and was just as well received at the time, if not more so. And I think the reason for that is a couple of reasons, I would generally say. He's over here. Is that... one, first of all, it's the original version. The original can do no wrong in anyone's eyes. And secondly, it's because the experience has been completely lost. TBC, you're not going to get the TBC experience, really. But you can at least do the TBC quests, and you can get the TBC gear, do the TBC dungeons, do the TBC raids. You know, it's there for you. In a way that the vanilla stuff is just not. But in terms of what I would say in summary is, I do think it's important that they think very carefully about making any change that would affect people's behaviour. So the aspect of loot trading, I think, is acceptable for a couple of reasons. One, I totally understand it's not a developer's decision, that they've basically been told, look, we ain't spending a fortune on this. You know, it would, we're not, because if you think, and I don't know whether you do think this, but if any of you guys think that it takes a while for, you know, tickets to be answered now, nothing like it was in vanilla. And the reason is because there are a lot of issues now that can just be dealt with really quickly and easily that couldn't at the time. And the trading was one bit, you know, trading going wrong was, or master looting going wrong was one big issue. The other thing is this. So, okay, we know in the modern game, you do get groups of people who roll for each other. In vanilla, that sort of behaviour, even with loot trading, I don't believe would have been as common. Now, I can only speak for the behaviour on my realm. The realm that I was on at the time was Asjul Nerb EU. And the way stuff was done there, now when you were levelling up in dungeons, okay, fine. But at level cap, you basically did not use the roll button, like the need button. That didn't happen. What used to happen was, if you went in a dungeon, master loot was used. Even when that master loot was a stranger, people just felt more comfortable with one person assigning the loot. So rolls could be done. In fact, there was an add-on called Loot Hog, I think it was. So rolls could be done. And then the master loot will go, okay, you won. You know, they'd make sure that you actually needed it. Because don't you believe you me, if there was a load of people wanted it, the person who won, everyone would inspect them. And if they looked at it and thought, you don't really need that, a fuss would be made. A fuss would be made. Believe you me. So I don't think that that would really happen. Obviously, in terms of raids, most raids would be done in a guild. They'd be using Master Looter and a DKP system. And even Pug raids would still use Master Looter. So the idea, you know, I don't discount completely the idea that someone could abuse the loot trading a bit. But it would not be likely. So I also think because there would be a lower chance of it happening, I really seriously don't have an issue with it. Even though I accept that in some way it could potentially change behaviour in a way that didn't happen in vanilla. And I am, you know, all for the vanilla. It's the only experience we can genuinely have. The actual social behaviour is the only thing that has any hope of being achieved, because everything else can't. You know, the attitude to dungeons, raids, specs, all the rest of it is going to be totally different. There's going to be loads of guides out that weren't at the time. You know, there's going to be a lot more information out there than was at the time. People are going to do things in different ways. Nothing's really going to be new, even though they're staggering it out. So Molten Core next year's layer are going to come out, and then a few months later they're going to play it by ear. Then they'll bring out Blackwing Layers or Garub. No one's going to be going, oh, I wonder what Blackwing Layer is going to be like. Everyone knows what it's like. So there's none of that either. And even people who don't know what it's going to be like in terms of managing it with a 40-man raid in crap gear, they'll know someone who did and remembers that and will help them out with it. So you're not going to get the vanilla experience in any aspect at all, being honest, other than the social aspects. That's the only real proper experience. And the questing, you know, as I say, I very much liked, and I wish they had never got rid of it. If they'd have never got rid of that, then I'd actually be less excited about it. I'd still play it, but I'd be less excited, because for me, it's the questing that I really loved, and the dungeon. Scholarman's my favourite dungeon. But anyway, those are my thoughts in terms of what we learned in the last week about Classic WoW as it's coming out. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you stuck to it at the end. If you did, don't forget to give it a click, a like button, and the subscribe button, please, for further content. Share it with other people who might also be interested. And until next time, I'll see you later.